I had just turned 18 years old. I had started working at a very well-known store in my city where those wealthy ladies would come in and I'd help them. But even though I've always felt that I have class, that I like nice things, that I have a more sophisticated and refined taste than my friends, that's something I've always had. And of course, when it comes to relationships and men, I've always had a different perspective too. Ever since I was really young, while my friends were getting together with the neighborhood boys, with those guys, who didn't have much to offer, I was already looking more at guys who had cars, at older men, at men who worked and were financially stable. Because after all, I always wanted to be an independent woman too, to have my own money. So if I was going to be in a relationship, it would be with that kind of man. Well, it turns out that at that age, at 18 years old, I was doing really well. I was saving my money, thinking about starting college, living a decent life as much as possible. Because, of course, I didn't come from wealth. I was never exceptionally well off, but we lived in a peaceful house, a nice house, a full house, everyone kind of all together under one roof. Well, then, it turns out that in the meantime, I had a cousin who would always invite me over to hang out at her friend's house. That's it. She invited me to a get together at their house. I went. When I got there, it was a really chill crowd. The most laid back crowd playing instruments, like smoking a bit, just hanging out, that kind of hangout crowd. And there was this guy there. He was really handsome. He had a beautiful smile. The way he walked was charming. You could tell he had charm. He also kept looking at me. And not long after the party started, he came over to me. We started talking, and of course, I gave him some attention. Later, I found out that he was new in our neighborhood, that he had moved there recently, but that he was starting his life over. That he was working at a mall near where I work too. He was also in sales, working as a salesperson at a mall store. And so, okay, fine. All right. He was 4 years older than me and still didn't have a driver's license. At 18, I was getting mine, so I expected he would have his by then. But it's fine. He didn't have his license yet. But he was very smart. He was able to say things that were very truthful, very real. He talked about politics. He could talk about different cultures, about countries, even though he had never been abroad, and I was enchanted by him. We ended up hanging out there chatting, and then I found out that all the girls in the neighborhood wanted to be with him. They were all after him. They had already added him on social media. And I was like, right, okay, if you want to go ahead, that's fine with me. If he wants to be with others, he can, but he was also enchanted by me. And we started to have a relationship, but it was kind of like, it wasn't really dating because he never even officially asked me to be his girlfriend. But that's how it was. He would come over and then we would kiss. He would go to work. Sometimes I would stay at his parents' house. His parents, my in-laws, when they met me, they treated me like a queen. When I got there, my father-in-law would ask what I wanted to eat. They lived in a simple house. But my father-in-law would cook meals and my mother-in-law would make dessert. I didn't really talk much with my brother-in-law, but he always treated me with a lot of respect. His grandmother, who lived in the back of the house, was very loving and affectionate with me. She treated me like a princess. Everyone would say, "You're beautiful, smart, a girl with a future and a good head on your shoulders," since I always talked about studying, going to college, and was already working. I was already applying for and paying for my driver's license myself. Anyway, in the middle of all that, when I introduced him to my family, when I brought him to my house, my uncles, my grandparents, my cousins, basically everyone in the family, they didn't like him. They didn't like him. They started saying no, that he had nothing in common with me, that he had a totally different mindset. Because in my family, everyone is very individualistic. Everyone has that mindset, political views different from mine and my boyfriend's. They didn't stand for anything we believed in. And since my boyfriend was very smart, he was able to bring up very important topics. But my family would resort to some really ridiculous comments. They would say things like, "You have nothing, yet you defend this. You should achieve something first." They really humiliated him. And even though he was humiliated, he never bowed his head. He always stood there, head held high by my side, and showing that he was with me. Of course, about 3 months after every visit to my house turned into a confrontation, he started to avoid it. Oh, honey, I'm not going. Come over here. As for me with his family, it was just deep conversations like talking about a fruit, you know? Like his dad was so smart, so his dad would buy some different fruits and open them up and say, look, this has benefits for this and that. This is good for your body. Eat this, girl. This is good. They treated me with a lot of affection, a lot of love, you know? Everyone there was really close, but it was really nice. But then my mom started picking on me a lot. Not just my mom, my dad too. But my dad, he was never one to verbalize his feelings. His whole life, whether it was talking to his family or her family or anyone else, I think my dad could only speak at work. Because in our house, in our family, everything he wanted to say went through my mom, and she was the one who spoke. There was even a time when a rumor started that my dad had said something, had asked my mom for something, and my mom went and spread what my dad was saying, and she ended up taking the blame for it, you know? Because my dad, oh, my dad doesn't say anything. Only those who really know him know that actually he does talk, but he only talks to her. So they started picking on my relationship. Why? I was getting my driver's license and he didn't even have any prospects. I worked at a designer store while he didn't work at just any clothing store because I had a completely different mindset from my family when it came to upbringing. Because he had nothing to offer, couldn't take me to a nice restaurant, and I was expected to date a different kind of guy. And then my mom, she would use the argument like, you always criticized your teenage friends so much for getting involved with broke guys from the neighborhood, so why are you getting involved with a broke guy too? And that hurt me deeply because he wasn't a broke guy. He wasn't a broke guy. He wasn't from our neighborhood. He came from another city, you know? So all of that for me was very painful to hear. But over time, things ended up getting even more complicated. My mom started being really hard on me. Her comments toward me were more aggressive. The way she talked to me was more aggressive. The way she treated me was more aggressive. Every time I wanted something, it was a straight up no to my face, like, ask your boyfriend, you know? But he's not my dad, so how can I ask him for that? I have to ask you. It started getting out of hand. It started to get out of hand, and my mom even said, if you think you're going to marry this guy, you're not. And my mom wanted to stop me from having a relationship with him in every possible way. But even though we were in a relationship, he never actually asked me to be his girlfriend because I used to say my family didn't like him. So I was like, oh, let's wait a little longer. Let's wait a little longer. So he never actually asked me to be his girlfriend, but we lived as if we were dating. But then there was a day when he went out with his friends to go to a concert that was happening in our city. And I said, no, go ahead, because it was a band concert that I didn't like with that good vibes crowd of his, and I didn't like that, so I just stayed at home. And then I was on Facebook, and a guy who, like, I had talked to a few times before, and we had tried to go out a few times, but it never worked out, sent me a message. But this man, he was the perfect type of man, you know, like sweet, handsome, different. So I was like, I said, oh, you want to go out? You know what? Fine, I'll agree to go out with this guy. I agreed to go out with him. So I went and we went to have dinner at a restaurant. On the day he picked me up, he showed up at my door and stopped that fancy car right there. My family, my relatives, and here's the thing, I was telling them that I wasn't dating the other guy anymore because I started telling my family, I'm not dating him anymore, Mom. I broke up with him, Mom. He's just my friend. He's just my friend. I started telling everyone in my family that my boyfriend was just my friend because I was losing my freedom at home. So when I agreed to go out with someone else, it was also for my family to see that, like, oh, she's with someone else, you know? When he showed up with that fancy car at the door, my whole family nudged each other, started smiling. My dad went over like, hey, how are you? Shook the guy's hand and then, oh, hi, with that little smile, you know? I kept thinking, oh my God, if people say money can't buy manners, it's because they haven't met my family. Wow, these people really sell themselves for money. I went out with the guy. He took me to an amazing restaurant, one of the most expensive in the city. He was elegant, hardworking, already had a degree. He was only a few years older than me, too, almost the same age difference as my boyfriend, and he was really taken with me, you know? He was totally taken with me. The way he talked was completely different from the guys I knew. Honestly, it was nothing like what I was used to. He had a very different worldview from mine. His conversations, his mindset, everything about the way he thought was so different, you know? He actually thought a lot like, you know who? My family, a group of people who were more closed minded, really individualistic, kind of arrogant about some things, and they thought they were better than others in some ways. I always thought that was tacky, you know? Because to me, it doesn't matter if someone has money if they're like that, you know? Because I've always said, I'm simple, I'm going to have a lot of money, but I'll never abandon my roots. But even then, I kept thinking, did he grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth and never develop any other perspective on life? How is he going to relate to me? That my family was just really individualistic and thought they were rich, but in fact, we were never really, really, really rich, you know? Like everyone lives well, has an average car, the house has everything we need. We're not poor, but we're not rich either. Even though my family thinks so, right? But anyway, we talked and talked. I liked him. I started talking to him. But of course, he wanted to kiss me, and I didn't want to. So he was a bit like, why don't you want to be with me and all that? I took you out to dinner as if it was an obligation. I ended up making out with him. I made out with him and started to panic as soon as I got out of the car. Then I ran. I said, dude, no, I need to talk to my boyfriend. I need to tell him what happened. I need to tell him what's going on. I need to tell him. I got to his house and told him everything. I told him that I had gone out with someone else. I told him that my family was really on my case. I told him that my family met this other guy. I told him what was happening. He hugged me. He calmed me down. He told me to stay calm. He said to me, girl, but are you going to be with him? Do you like him? Are you going to get involved with him? I said, no, I don't know yet. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to be with him or not. But he welcomed me, he hugged me, and he said it was okay for me to stay there, that he understood my mistake. Right then, I started thinking to myself, either he is emotionally dependent on me or he is also seeing other girls, but he won't tell me. Because the right thing would have been for him to end everything, and I even had a bit of expectation that he would break up with me. But no, he wanted to keep seeing me because he said he wasn't going to give me up, you know? But at that point, with the guy texting me, my family asking questions, I ended up continuing to see another guy too. But from then on, I didn't tell my boyfriend anymore. I let it go. And then this guy always showed up. He came to my house, treated me well, and I got to meet his relatives, no, his family. His family was very small. It was just his father, mother, and sister. All his grandparents had passed away, and his parents had no siblings, so he had no uncles or aunts. That was very strange to me because my family wouldn't even fit in this room. There are so many people, you know, like it's a lot of people. So his family was very small, very empty. And his mother was very cultured, you know, but it was just regular people, a normal house. It wasn't a rich people's house, you know. He had a fancy car, but his parents had regular cars, just like my parents did too. And so they didn't have that super fancy life I thought they had, but that's okay. But his parents didn't like me. They treated me very badly, and it was really hard to have a relationship with her. She didn't like me. She treated me with a lot of anger, with a lot of resentment. It was heartbreaking. So I started to realize that I was having two relationships. One with a guy who thinks totally differently from me, but he has money. His mother doesn't like me, but he gives me good things. He's not the kind of guy I'd like to marry, but we have amazing chemistry. As much as I like him, I really do like him. I love him, but I think my family loves him more than I do. Meanwhile, on the other side, I have a family. His parents are crazy about me. They treat me with so much love. I feel like we have amazing chemistry, but my boyfriend, my first boyfriend, we never went to the movies together. He never took me out to dinner. He never gave me a gift, you know, a present or anything like that. What he gives me sometimes is a rose that he brings when he's coming back from work, that he steals from a garden, which is beautiful, it's romantic, but I don't know if that's really the kind of relationship, and he doesn't have much vision. I tried to talk to him about working, about business, you know, I started studying, and I've been in a relationship with these two for 2 years. I've been dating two men for 2 years, and each one is totally different from the other. With one, I feel human, I feel alive, I feel loved, I feel welcomed by the family, but he doesn't have a vision for the future. He's still working at the same store while I've already left. I started college, I started my internship, you know. Soon I'll be finishing my course. I got my driver's license. I made a down payment on my car. I paid for my car. I paid for my license. I'm saving money because I'm going to buy a house. I haven't left my parents' house yet because I'm going straight to my own apartment while he's still at the same store. In the same place, with the same routine, the same way, not doing anything, but he treats me with a lot of love, with a lot of affection. I am very loved. Meanwhile, on the other side, I have my boyfriend's parents. They hate me. They treat me badly. They don't like me. They despise me. Everything they can do to harm me, they try to harm me. I always have to keep defending myself, or hiding behind my relationship because it's my boyfriend who should defend me, and he doesn't. He's an active listener. He's not a guy I can talk to about my feelings, about my love, about any pain, about any frustration. I can't have that open conversation with him. For him, everything is solved by giving me money like, oh, my love, go get your hair done, go to a spa, that'll fix it. And as much as I love this princess life and having some independence by his side and power, and he welcomes me, he supports me. My projects, things like my driver's license, making a down payment on a car, an apartment, that's really his vision because he lives with his parents, but with that mindset, he's not buying an apartment, he's getting a plot in a gated community and will build his house because they have a very successful company. So, he has a vision for the future. He grew up in his family's company. He's already changed cars several times, and he even helped his parents change cars too. But I don't have love. I don't have support from the family. Everything revolves around money, and today I feel totally lost because I'm starting to think that as much as I love both of them, I don't know if I can continue in this relationship, if I should break up with both of them. If I break up with the poor one to stay with the rich one, if I break up with the rich one to stay with the poor one, and honestly, I'm living a lie where I feel like I'm not even myself. Hi, my cats, how are you all doing? Guys, what kind of story is this? This girl sent me this story about the two relationships she's in, but let me tell you one thing. One thing is for sure, right? The best thing you could do is to be with yourself, is to understand what you want for yourself. One of the things that made me happiest about your story is knowing that you didn't give up on your own career because of any of those men. That you evolved as a person, that you have this mindset of staying at your parents' house, building what is yours, living your own way, having your own home, and then maybe, who knows, thinking about marriage. It's really sad when you want someone to succeed with you and they don't have that vision, but can I tell you something? To be heard, you need friends. That's what friends are for, to listen to you, to support you, to give you advice, to have good friends who also have a mindset for the future, a mindset of love and support. Sometimes you put your friendships aside and you're giving the best of yourself to two relationships. But try making a little list of the pros and cons of being with the rich guy, the pros and cons of being with the poor guy, and the pros and cons of being alone. Then you make a list of everything you can have on your own, whether you find it on one side or the other. Take what you believe is best, make it part of yourself, and understand the path you need to take. See a therapist too, because a counseling session can ask you questions that will help clear up your doubts and help you find your path. What a story, right? Have you ever had two boyfriends? Message me on stories@channeldietapala@gmail.com. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Kisses. See you in the next video.